It says it's going.
Yeah, live.
There
All
we
right.
go. Audzi, this mic is all yours, my friend.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynn. And I'm showing myself, but not for long, because look, you can see me in the background there, lounging away. We're going to get started right away here. Course in Mysticism and Miracles. We are not even on a page number, really, we're in the Roman numerals still, but we're going to talk about mysticism and the ego. And John Moody says, I once asked Ken why he thought the course came to us when it did during the last quarter of the 20th century. He said that he did not know for sure, but he was sure that it could not have appeared until after the work of Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. Freud understood the ego very well and described in some detail how it works. Before Freud, men like German idealist philosopher Johann Fichte maintained that a study of the ego was fundamental to philosophy and to the then newly emerging field of psychology. But no one before Freud had spelled out the workings of the ego in such detail and with such amazing clarity. It's interesting because, I always, when I took psychology back, well, God, who knows how many years, whatever, but Freud got a bad rap. What I remember, he was just sort of, I don't know, the cocaine sort of, I don't know who. I thought when I studied it, he wasn't well revered as a psychologist, but this is interesting to hear because he does have some interesting angles of the ego for sure. Let's continue here. While there are similarities between the use of the word ego in the course and in Freudian psychology, the usage is not the same. In the course, the word is used in ways more akin to how it is used in non-dualistic, mystically oriented philosophy, in which the ego is a false self with no lasting reality. By contrast, Freud thought that we were damned to a life with the ego, absolutely stuck with it. There was no exit, no door to freedom. In The Future of an Illusion, Freud writes, the idea of God is an illusion based on an infantile emotional need for a powerful supernatural paterfamilias, that is, a strong father figure. Freud's atheism kept him from seeing that God was the answer to this dilemma. By contrast, the Course teaches that allegiance to the denial of God is the ego's religion. That's from chapter 10. Allegiance to the denial of God is the ego's religion. If Freud had studied Eastern philosophy or mysticism, as did Carl Jung, he might have seen the way out. The presence of God is an absolute ingredient in awakening. Without God, we're lost. Mystics are lucky. Although perhaps not yet realized, they know that the search for God is the only way to go. And it is in that search that we experience miracles. Reminding myself that miracles are a shift in perspective. vocabulary is important. I know when communicating, oftentimes it's always just a miscommunication with not knowing what somebody means by I define something differently than they do. I've seen a lot more how I do project out, and this has given me more compassion. At first, my first awareness of it, I just felt a lot of annoyance. It was just, it was so uncomfortable, and just sometimes hate towards others. Just, I don't want to hear your story. I hate stories. And negating that's the way you teach, through parables, a story. And that was just part of the way to this purification. It's a wonderful experience to go through, and then be able to see how the shifts, the miracles happen. Absolutely beautiful. But back to Freud. Damned, no door to freedom. This is much like the teachings of Meister Eckhart, a 12th century Dominican, often regarded as the greatest of the medieval Christian mystics. The world, Eckhart tells us, is an emanation from an ultimate, indivisible being with whom the soul is ultimately united. Charged with heresy by the Inquisition, Eckhart spent the last 2 years of his life defending his mystical teachings, and died before he could be executed. He is thus referred to as Meister, not saint. I think that's Meister, not Mr. Meister. Eckhart epitomizes the teaching of all mystics in this admonition: become in all things a God seeker and a God finder at all times and in all places. And, sometimes I've gone through phases with the word God, God seeker, just because of the definition again, and having that personification of God, and just, it doesn't feel right when I would say it, because I felt like I'm pointing to God being a being, and I don't believe that I believe that. I don't believe God is a person. And so it was hard for me to use that word, but words are just pointers. However, I did find it helpful when I felt that discomfort to substitute God for love. So become in all things a love seeker and a love finder at all times and in all places. So Albert Einstein, a mystic in his own way, put it more simply: I want to know the mind of God, or the mind of love. Again, mind of God just personifies, I guess, for me, because to me the mind is of this person making. So where is God's mind in that? Because if I'm thinking with God, my mind is actually blank. So knowing the mind of God, I want to know. Yeah, that's a good one to mull over. Put more sense. I want to know the mind of God. Dove, have anything to say on the mind of God? That it feels like an oxymoron. Anyway, viewed from the perspective of medieval mysticism, the Course is the philosopher's stone, the magnum opus, or the great work that truly answers the riddles of the universe. It represents a process by which we can learn of the truth of our being, find freedom from our insanity, and be reassured of eternal life. Like all mystical systems, the Course is a path, a way, a process, and a passage. It is a story that tells us of the grand destiny and points the way to the path out of hell. Ultimately, the answers to the riddle we call life is simply a matter of a willingness to live in harmony with the divine. That is the miracle. We are simply called upon to remember, or better, recognize what we already know. Next section, the true mystic. At the core, everyone's a mystic. Everyone longs for God and our eternal home. Once, when I was teaching a class on mysticism, I described a thinker as a true mystic. A student asked what I meant, forcing me to contemplate the qualities I ascribed to mystics. I settled on 4 major characteristics that are common to them all. 1, a true mystic looks for God above and beyond all worldly endeavors. A true mystic is willing to go through a deep inner cleansing of the soul, accept responsibility for decisions, and begin living in accordance with the will of God, which is our own will. A true mystic dedicates his or her life to spiritual growth and to the process of being free of illusion in favor and recognition of reality. And number 4, a true mystic is a lover of the absolute. Evelyn Underhill called all true mystics the heroes of our race. Beautiful. And that gets us into part 1 here, the mystical path. And there's a quote here by Kalu Rinpoche. We live in the appearance of things. There is a reality, but we do not know it. To be everything, you must first be nothing. There must be no wanting, no needing. Like no wanting, no needing, no desire, but the desire, I feel, is the energy of God. That desire, that life energy, the wanting, the needing. There's no wanting or needing of worldly things, but there's this deep desire in me to be doing what I'm doing. Because, you know, I come to the conclusion that, like, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing to fix. I could end there, but there's always been something in this mind that's always been so inquisitive. What is going on here? There's something happening. There's something not happening, or it's just whatever was in this mind. Just that desire, no wanting or needing, but the desire for me. Speak. So chapter 1, mysticism and miracles. We're going to start from a quote from the text, chapter 8. In A Course in Miracles, wholeness heals because it is of the mind. All forms of sickness, even unto death, are physical expressions of the fear of awakening. They are attempts to reinforce sleeping out of fear of waking. This is a pathetic way of trying not to see, by rendering the faculties for seeing ineffectual. Rest in peace is a blessing for the living, not the dead. Because rest comes from waking, not from sleeping. Sleep is withdrawing. Waking is joining. I love it. You know, sometimes it's like there's this almost harshness, but now the pathetic way of seeing, like when I first would read that, it would just be a little bit of our argument in the mind. And now I read it and it's funny. It's like, this is a pathetic way of, it's so pathetic. Rest in peace for the living, not the dead. My goodness, we're ass backwards. Always upside down. No one becomes a mystic by reading a book. What? Reading a book doesn't hurt, however. A Course in Miracles is, in the first instance, a book. The right book can turn our minds and start the gears moving in a wholly new direction. Reading a mystic's writings helps us remember what we already know and provides a link to other mystics. It just made me think, but also, so does Peter Pan. Is Peter Pan a mystic? Because I had watched Hook again not too long ago, and man, I just really got it captured with the whole thing of it about, forgetting you're the child. Like it seemed to me it's a representation of us forgetting who we truly are, and to be as the little children, the innocent children, the inquisitive, the carefree, the children that they feel they sometimes they may not be receptive to somebody, but that's just how they're feeling it. And I know sometimes it's hard not to take that personally, but there's also such a blessing in seeing that opposite side of it, that it isn't personal to me, and just loving and accepting it how it is. Reading a mystic's writings helps us remember what we already know and provides a link to other mystics. Odds would add Peter Pan. Reading about mysticism is not the same as being a mystic. As being. Reading isn't being. It's just like the knowledge in the thinking mind is not the experience, the experiential. It's reading is not the same as being, but it is a clear indication that our feet are on the path. With a little luck, we may be inspired to do the work required to develop a contemplative life. Mohammed said, "A scholar who writes about mysticism without mystical eyes is like a donkey carrying a load of books." I don't even get it. I don't know. Sometimes I just can't. I'm just so nice. I'm thinking, okay, well, the donkey, what if you put, anyway, I'm going on. Mysticism is available to all, including or sometimes especially children. You may not know how close mysticism is to you while driving your car, listening to music, taking a walk in nature, or sharing deeply with a loved one, but it is there. Almost nothing brings me greater joy than listening to mystics describe their experiences. Mystics naturally enjoy meeting and being with other mystics. They do so freely and in a relaxed manner, being appreciative of whatever gifts their companions bring. Mystics may have any career, teacher, salesman, computer operator, car mechanic, you name it. They can be found among poets, writers, musicians, nature lovers, artists, healers, ministers, philosophers, psychologists, and craftspeople of all sorts. Libraries are filled with mystical poetry and stories, mystical philosophies, and studies on mysticism. Text, chapter 3. Many are called, but few are chosen, should be. All are called, but few choose to listen. That just gave me a little wind knocked out of me, like sorrow came over me. Many are called, but few are chosen, should be all are called, but few choose to listen. Mysticism is an experience. It is something we live, not something we study or describe or investigate. These experiences can be found everywhere, in profound contemplation or in everyday life. Jeff Mills, a student of the course, described this simple mystical experience which came to him as he was leaving his barber after getting a haircut. I had not taken 10 steps when I saw an elderly woman pass by who reminded me of my mom. All of a sudden, I was overcome with an incredible sense of oneness. I felt a spreading warm feeling in my chest. For a brief moment, it occurred to me to turn around and tell the barber about it. But what would I say? I leaned against the brick building while tears welled up in my eyes. I don't know whether coming across the woman triggered the event or whether it was coincidental, but I felt an incredible sense of connection, that all of us are connected to our source and to each other. I realized there is nothing to fear because there is absolutely nothing outside of us. I felt so safe and joyful. After a couple of minutes, I headed to my car with a deep peace flowing through me. And I'm sure we've all had those moments in time when we reflect back. Tell somebody who has never, and if you haven't had that, I mean, it's not to say if you haven't had that, something's wrong, or maybe it just wasn't noticed or seen, or I can't know something until I know it. It's just so clear. I mean, there are so many things when people talk to me about in this world, I don't even know what they're talking about, and it doesn't bother me. So why should it matter to me that I don't know anything? Like, really, it's Tell somebody who has never fallen in love what it's like to fall in love, right? Like, you can try, but you can't really explain it because it's an experience. Now magnify that experience tenfold, and you may begin to understand something of what a mystical experience is. You may get just a glimmer of it. You know, I hear myself thinking, oh, there's like, oh, that's a great example. And then gently, here's an example. And right away, the mind's like, you don't have any examples. You're not a mystic. How could you say you have examples of mysticism? Well, I know that that's a narrator just saying things. And I don't know if I've had mystical experiences per se, but what I can share is the experiences I have had in moments have been deep and profound. And I'll even share a recent one, a few weeks, maybe even. I was putting my birds to bed, my lovebirds. Well, my one bird, I have to put him to bed. He just, and there was just a moment of connecting with him and just the being and the sense of, what is this? What is this essence with me? And I was so overcome with this sense as I looked in his eyes, and there was just this recognition, and I was so overwhelmed. The tears just were pouring, and this moment, this time slowing down. It was so profound and yet so simple, and there's nothing I can say to really describe it except that it's just it's love, it's God, that's it. And call it what it is. Who cares? I don't need to define that. Beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. I'm grateful for those little yappers back there. I'm sure you can hear. They're not in the same room, but they can hear me. They want to be with me. It's an experience. Magnify the experience. You may just get a glimmer. That the Taoists tell us the Tao which can be described is not the Tao. The Buddhists put it this way: the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. How can you freeze the infinite? Although mystical experiences may fade, however, they are never forgotten. Something consistently pulls us home. Mystical knowledge is not a secret. It is a revelation, a recognition of what already is. The word mystic derives from mysti, meaning to close the lips and eyes. Unlike the word esoteric, which means secret or hidden, the word mystical refers to knowledge that is not hidden, but simply not available to someone who is sleeping, unawakened, or unaware. Oh, that's beautiful. The difference between the mystic, close the lips and eyes, unlike esoteric. I used to say that. I'd be like, oh, it's esoteric talking, thinking, but that's secret or hidden. And nothing about this is secret or hidden. It's truth. It's who we are. It's who I am. Meaning to close the lips and eyes, but simply not available to someone who is sleeping, unawakened, or unaware. It's simply not available. Mysticism is thus both an experience and an ongoing developing awareness. Mahavira, Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad, as well as many other religious leaders, have always given the highest importance to the direct personal experience of truth. That's so important because it is personal, individualized path. And the course is a required course, but only the time you take it is up to you. And it is our own individualized experiences, my experiences, that provide me with what I need for miracles in this mind. I'm gonna leave us there, and we're in the middle of something, but it's all good. I'm just so grateful to get to be here and read a book that I wanted to read. It makes me read stuff, it's so awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. I love you a lot. And Dove, Lynn, Merry Christmas. I'm feeling Christmas
sweetheart.
already.
Merry Christmas.
Love you.
Love you, my dear, and thank you so much. And this is wonderful. I love this book. So I'm going to actually stop the YouTube